Howdy folks, welcome to being lost in an industrial estate. I'm not actually lost, I'm grand. I'm grand. And so like normal, I promised the fucking moon on a stick. Live videos, all sorts of social media engagement. And then on Thursday and Friday last week, myself and on two wheels at Rainbow were over at the EICMA show in Milan, because apparently you pronounce it like that. And it was good shit. And I just walked and walked and walked. It was fucking something else for the walking. For those not familiar, EICMA is one of the main sort of shows that motorbike manufacturers show off their new models, and you know, it's not just of bikes, it's of bike accessories and other stuff. You know, like Bosch had a stand there for some reason, because they make all of the ABS. And it's essentially 5 or 6 just big fuck off halls, like big halls. The place where it is, the Roffiera, is basically a small city that they built for exhibitions. It's like, here's where we do exhibitions. And so there's just, and it was taking up maybe a quarter of it, and it was still fucking enormous. Like, I think we walked many kilometers on both days. It was actually pretty savage. I love around here where it's like just a random gaff in the middle of nowhere. Like, that's somebody's gaff. And so we got it on Thursday afternoon and had like probably from about 1:30 until we decided to fucking get out, which was I think 4:30 or 5. It's open till 6, but we were fucked by then. Like, we've been on the plane since 4 or 5 o'clock that morning, so we got out. And also, like, we were fucked after the first day because we didn't take breaks or anything. We just sort of said, oh yeah, we're going to have a quick shimmy around, and then we were like, bikes, and then it was fucking 5 hours later, and we were, you know, husks of our former selves. It was fucking, it was pretty rough. But so, if you're thinking of going to EICMA, what I would say is, it's worth going to once. I wouldn't say it's a sort of a go every year kind of thing, unless you were really, really, really into small incremental changes to bikes you know already, you know, or something like that. There's a couple of notable sort of bikes. There was a lot of electric bikes, and they've gotten really nice. There was a place called Autobike, which had they have a bike which is like a 3-letter acronym, thanks. And it looks savage. It's like, it looks a bit mad, but then you get up to it and you see just the trim on it and the way that it's put together, and it's like, that is nice. And there was an Italian place that made electric bikes, and we were like, that's a nice electric bike, I might consider getting an electric bike. And then you look and they're 28 grand, and it's like, maybe I won't get an electric bike just yet until they get a bit cheaper, like a good bit cheaper. Yeah, if you're familiar with Irish motorbike dealers and the way that they work, is that a lot of them don't have, you know, anything close to the full range of bikes in. They might have, in the case of the large dealers like BMW or KTM or M50 or M50, I said M50 Honda, they might have like the popular ones, or the 3 or 4 most popular bikes. So in the case of, for example, Honda, in the at the show, they fucking, like, they had every bike, like every bike that Honda makes was there, including like the little scoots and the huge big things, and a whole lot of Africa Twins and the NC700 and all those sort of things. So it was good. It was good to be able to see up close bikes you'd only sort of seen in pictures and videos and shit. Also with the big manufacturers is that they just sort of said, yeah, fucking paw away at them and hop up on them and go nuts. Like, you know, they were on stands, and you go into some dealers in Ireland and they're like, don't sit on the bikes, don't do nothing to the bikes, don't even touch them. They don't, like, we don't own the bikes, so leave them alone. And so this was the manufacturers going, yeah, paw the fuck out of them, get up on them and fucking get your missus up in the back and see how that is, and all sorts of shit. It was good. And yeah, so Friday we went back and we sort of were a little bit more sensible. We wanted to go around, like, we wanted to see everything essentially, you know, once. So we went up and down, did it methodically, you know, up and down each row. It's sort of set out in rough kind of rows. The big manufacturers take up like a big chunk out of the middle or something like that. And we managed to get up and down everything in like a day and a half. And that's like seeing stuff and stopping for pictures and sitting up on bikes and doing the thing. So I'd say if you're planning on flying over in the morning and doing it and flying back in the evening, you're probably going to have to plan it out and plan to miss some things. Like we had, what, 4 or 5 hours on the first day, and we were in there at 10:30 on the second day and out at, I'd say, 5. So good solid more than 8 hours you'd need to get around. And as well as the hauls, there was an outsidey bit where they were test riding e-bikes, not e-motorbikes, but e-bicycles. Just giving it to you and letting you ride up a big fucking hill and go nuts on it, which is okay. We didn't do it, but you know, it was a good idea. And there was, I think BMW had a big presence, so they had some drift cars there doing mad shit, you know, back 4 people in the back of a drift car and then frighten the bollocks out of them. And then there was sort of dirt bike and displays of stuff like that, which was, you know, good to watch. I think the only people actually test riding bikes there were Royal Enfield, and they had like a little course set up, and it's like, please fucking ride a Royal Enfield, please, 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 please. So the one thing I haven't really done thus far, and I meant to do a couple of times and never got to it, is go to Motorcycle Live over in Birmingham. So I can't really compare it to Motorcycle Live. I would imagine it's probably bigger, since it seems to get more press as being a big thing. And one thing I notice is you go over there and like it's like fucking Thunderland for the locals. Like they're coming in, like there's kids coming in and families coming in saying, yeah, bikes, you know, at all the stuff, and it just shows that like there's a biking culture in other places that we just don't have here. Like biking is seen as sort of an outsidery, you know, you're some sort of mad bastard if you have a motorbike sort of thing here. And so, you know, until you turn that around, you're not going to get as big a sort of a, I want to say market, but also a big community, you know. Over there it's like grannies and granddads and little kids are off going to fucking EICMA to look at fucking mad Ducatis and shit. It was actually mad to see. So that was good. I like that. And one of the other things that happened at EICMA, and I suppose I better say this in case I don't get a chance to record later in the week, is I kind of decided to change the bike. I really did. It was funny, when I was test riding the Tracer 900 and the Nick N, which are both more sort of sat up bikes than this, funny enough, and I got back on this bike afterwards and I was like, yeah, do you know what, I want to change this. It was only after riding another couple of bikes that I kind of realised. And I love this bike to absolute fucking shreds for what it is. It's like, I have it exactly the way I want it and it's perfect and everything like that, but it's still a bit leaned over for me. That's what I've come to realise, and I do miss being up on an uprighty bike. So, while I was at EICMA, I had the plan in the back of my head, and out of my mouth repeatedly, if you were Graham, to sort of say, I'm going to get a proper look at some of the bikes I've been thinking about getting. And I'm gonna actually make a decision and see what the story is. So that was one of the things that happened. And so over the course of that couple of days, I made my decision. And so in the last week or so, I've been going around to a couple of places, and I've just done the deal on my new bike. And by new, I mean new, as in 182 reg, as in I bust my nut and couldn't wait until January. So and the eagle-eyed among you will spot that where I was at the start of this video, it's not a BMW. There you are. There's some suspense for you, or not, if you don't give a shit, which you probably shouldn't. I'm just a random stranger on the internet. But anyway, I'm changing the bike. I'm changing the bike probably this week or next week, for a new one that happened. I went into a dealer and they happened to have the exact spec of bike in the exact colour and the exact fucking thing that I wanted, and I was like, it's Providence, I must have it. That's not actually what I said. I said, sound, yeah, buddy. And that's all working out beautifully. So yeah, we'll see. We'll do an old bike reveal at a certain point. Anyway, the actual roundup of EICMA is like, would I go again? It's a bit of crack, you know. It was a nice couple of days out. I wouldn't go again next year, you know. I feel like there's little enough happening in the motorbike industry, like seismically, that it's probably worth a visit every 2 or 3 years, I want to say. But and actually, it's worth a visit if, which worked out beautifully for me this time round. It's worth a visit if you're torn between a few bikes and you're not quite sure, and you want to get a proper poke at all of the bikes in a certain sort of a category, or you know, you have a list and you're down to a few, and you're like, yeah, I want to actually see them. I want to actually look at them and poke at them and smell them. Milan itself, we didn't see any of Milan. We didn't see any of the city. We just went from the fucking cheap ass hotel we got to the conference centre and got the fuck out of there the minute we were done. So that was okay. So sorry, Milan. I'm sure you're grand. Also, I've some time off coming up in the next couple of weeks, which is good that it coincides with new bike. But also, I'll be doing some shed stuff, some shed things. So exciting times in Grumpy Manor. I'll be sure to try and get back on the making videos train after that. I've been off it for a while, and hopefully a bit of normalcy will show up and we'll be able to get back to the normal course of events. Right, that's enough excitement for one day. It's time to go to work, I suppose. Alright, talk to you next time.